What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com.
Here are my DFS picks for MLB World Series, Tuesday, October 20th.
These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button
And hit that bell icon.
so you don't miss our new videos.
In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's MLB slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, let's take a look at this MLB World Series showdown between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Los Angeles Dodgers. So let's take a look at the pitcher position. I'm going to pay up here. I like Clayton Kershaw pitching against the Tampa Bay Rays. Clayton Kershaw, he's giving up a .643 OPS versus righties, and he's facing 5 righties here tonight. On top of that, the Rays have only hit 5 of his last 33 pitches, batting a .152 batting average. He's $11,400 DraftKings salary and the same price on FanDuel. He has an ERA of 2.16. His record is 6-2 on the season, pitching an average of 89 pitches per game. He's averaging 22 DraftKings points per game, and he scored 7, 20, and 8 DraftKings points in the last 3 games. He's projected at 17.7 DraftKings points here tonight, so I like Clayton Kershaw here versus the Tampa Bay Rays. Okay, let's take a look at the catcher position. I like Will Smith with a 39% batting advantage over Tyler Glasnow. Will Smith bats 25% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a 1.024 OPS versus righties. And Tyler Glasnow throws his worst ball versus righty batters, 13% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a .663 OPS versus righties. He's $7,800 DraftKings salary and $1,300 less on FanDuel. He's averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 7, 3, and 18 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 7.6 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Will Smith here versus Tyler Glasnow. Okay, let's take a look at the first base position. I'm going to give you a value play here. I like Yandy Diaz with an 11% batting advantage over Clayton Kershaw. Yandy Diaz bats 10% better versus lefty pitchers. He's batting a .872 OPS versus lefties. And Clayton Kershaw, he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .643 OPS versus righties. There's no at-bats versus Kershaw yet, and Yandy Diaz is only $5,200 DraftKings salary and $300 more on FanDuel. He's averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 2, 0, and 5 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 7.7 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Yandy Diaz here versus Clayton Kershaw. Okay, let's take a look at the second base position. I like Chris Taylor with an 18% batting advantage over Tyler Glasnow. Chris Taylor bats 5% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .818 OPS versus righties. And Tyler Glasnow throws his worst ball versus righty batters, 13% worse than his pitch to lefties, giving up a .663 OPS versus righties. Taylor is 1 for 2 with a 1.167 OPS versus Glasnow. He's $7,200 DraftKings salary and $2,700 less on FanDuel. He's averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season, and he scored 8, 7, and 4 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 7.1 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Chris Taylor here versus Tyler Glasnow.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. The tools are all about saving research time. You can see the last 3 games, the fantasy points per game, the targets they got per game, so you can see how involved they are in the offense, the rushes they got per game. Seeing all this stuff on one screen helps you save time and make better picks. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, who do we have at the third base position? I like Justin Turner with a 17% batting advantage over Tyler Glasnow. Justin Turner bats 4% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a .872 OPS versus righties. In Tyler Glasnow, we know he pitches his worst ball versus righty batters, so I'm going to stack some righty batters here versus Tyler Glasnow. There's no at-bats versus Glasnow yet, and Turner is $8,400 DraftKings salary and $1,400 less on FanDuel. He's averaging 8 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 6, 16, and 7 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 8.1 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Justin Turner here versus Tyler Glasnow. Okay, let's take a look at the shortstop position. I'm going to give you another value play here. I like Willy Adames batting against Clayton Kershaw. Willy Adames bats pretty much the same versus lefty and righties. He's batting a .784 OPS versus lefties. And we know Clayton Kershaw throws his worst ball versus righty batters, giving up a .643 OPS versus righties. Now, he is 0 for 2 versus Kershaw. It's a small sample size, but I like this pick because he's going to give your lineup some salary relief because he's only $6,200 DraftKings salary and $1,200 less on FanDuel. He's averaging 7 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 4, 11, and 2 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 7 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Willy Adames here versus Clayton Kershaw. Okay, moving on to the outfield position. I like Mookie Betts with a 45% batting advantage over Tyler Glasnow. Mookie Betts is batting 32% better versus righty pitchers. He's batting a 1.004 OPS versus righties. We know Tyler Glasnow throws his worst ball versus righty batters, and Mookie Betts is 5 for 12, batting a .417 batting average and a 1.083 OPS versus Glasnow. He's $9,800 DraftKings salary and $800 less on FanDuel. He's averaging 11 fantasy points per game on the season. He scored 10, 5, and 15 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 9.1 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Mookie Betts here versus Tyler Glasnow. And if you're looking for a value play at the outfielder position, take a look at Manuel Margot with a 15% batting advantage over Clayton Kershaw. Manuel Margot bats 14% better versus lefty pitchers. He's batting a .760 OPS versus lefties. And Clayton Kershaw, he throws his worst ball versus righty batters. Manuel Margot is 5 for 22, batting a .227 batting average and a .565 OPS versus Kershaw. So those numbers aren't popping off the page here, but he's only $5,400 DraftKings salary and he's $1,100 more on FanDuel. So I like that DraftKings price. He's averaging 6 fantasy points per game on the season, but he scored 6, 30, and 3 fantasy points in the last 3 games, projected at 7.5 fantasy points here tonight. So I like Manuel Margot here versus Clayton Kershaw.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this MLB slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again and good luck.